Am I wearing a onesie? Yes. Yes, I am. It's very cold today and I felt like being cozy, and today is a more like casual, chatty video, so let's all get cozy together. Today I'm gonna talk about why I quit my D&D campaign. Now before we get started, I gotta fess up, this is not gonna be a spicy tale that would be found on like RPG horror stories or something. Basically what it comes down to is not remembering to communicate like a grown-up. If you've been following this channel for a while, you might have heard me talk about my Tomb of Annihilation campaign, which I've been running for 3 years. It's the first D&D campaign I've ever run, and here is a photo of us starting at our very first session all the way back in 2019. I was a very, very fresh DM, only having DM'd maybe 1 or 2 sessions when I decided to jump into this campaign, and the reason that I picked it is A, I got the book as a present for Christmas, which was great, and B, it has dinosaurs in it, and I love dinosaurs. Jurassic Park is my favorite movie of all time because it is the best movie of all time. Fight me in the comments. Oh yeah, I should say before we continue that this video will contain some spoilers for Tomb of Annihilation, so just beware if you're a player in that game. So I got this big old book, and to be honest, I was a little bit overwhelmed reading it. In fact, I made a whole video about feeling overwhelmed reading adventure books, which I'll put in the cards up there. But, this was like my life raft. I felt much more scared of the idea of coming up with something by myself than tackling a book like this. Now, the adventure begins in Port Nyanzaru, a really cool city in Chult, which is like filled with culture and life and really exciting things. And we had a really fun time there, exploring the city a little bit, participating in some dinosaur races. But unfortunately, we left the city very quickly because the big premise for this book is that there is a death curse, and anyone who has ever been brought back by a revivification or other kind of revival spell is slowly dying, and no one else can be raised from the dead once again. It's funny thinking about this adventure hook now, because this is such a rich people problem, because like really it would only be rich people that were getting like high level revival magic cast on them. But yes, so the party have been hired by a interested person who is currently dying of this death curse to find out what's going on, to go into the jungles of Chult and to hopefully stop it forever. Spoiler warning, I guess, but he is on the cover of the book. Acererak the Lich is behind this evil death curse. Now this curse is kind of speeding things along. It's a ticking time bomb that if you don't get to where the curse is and ending it in time, your patron dies, and also countless other people die as well. So it sort of has a very quick pace to it, which is kind of juxtaposed to the expansive sandbox-like setting that Tomb of Annihilation is. It gives you so many cool places to explore, so many cool characters and NPCs, and it sort of is a very expansive setting, and I really enjoy the way Chult is outlined in this book, but it just felt like we had to race through it to get to this death curse, which is the main premise of the adventure. So that is kind of point number 1 of the things that I didn't really enjoy about running Tomb of Annihilation. Once you're out of the city, there are a number of places you can go, and I actually really enjoyed this part of the adventure. It was really fun kind of picking cool locations and plopping them in front of my players. The book does outline essentially a hex crawl, which is like when you go 1 hex is like 1 amount of travel, and then you roll on a table to see what happens and what the weather is like. It kind of gives you a very like gritty survival style playthrough, but we quickly dispensed with that because we didn't really enjoy that style of play. So we just did more of a narrative traveling where I kind of put different cool locations from the book in front of the players, and it was a good time. We had some really great moments and some really great role play and some good combats. That was probably my favorite part of this whole campaign, was sort of that early stages of exploration. Now the thing about this jungle and all of the places here in Chult is that they are deadly as I mean, that's not really a surprise. It says Tomb of Annihilation right here on the cover. So I did know going in that this was going to be a deadly adventure. That is how it is billed. It literally has this disclaimer in the book. This adventure will make your players hate you, the kind of simmering hatred that eats away at their souls until all that remains are dark little spheres of annihilation where their hearts used to be. P.S. Don't forget to tear up their character sheets. Oh, I'm gonna take this off because I think it keeps bumping my mic. Is my hair frizzy? So whilst I did know that this was a deadly adventure going into it, what I didn't know was how I felt as a dungeon master about death in my games. You know, on paper it sounded really fun, this kind of super crunchy adventure where, you know, life and death is constantly at battle and players might have multiple characters, and that seemed like a really fun idea until I was actually at the table playing the game. It turns out, as a dungeon master, I don't really like high death campaigns. I prefer to have my players be invested in their characters and give them plenty of time to flesh them out and to experience them and to roleplay in them. And that's not to say that I don't have death in my games at all. I enjoy having death as a real threat in my games, but I don't like the idea of my players' characters just dying needlessly without any kind of narrative significance or meaning. If you enjoy playing Meat Grinder D&D where there is a lot of death, then Tomb of Annihilation is probably like gonna be right up your alley. It's perfect for that, but not for me. After some fantastic times in the jungle where they fought a hag that they trapped inside her hut and then burnt it down, there was a zombie Tyrannosaurus Rex that they fought for a while, our party druid kept getting high on all the different hallucinogenic fungi that she could find in the jungle. We ended up at the city of Omu, which is where Acererak has built his Tomb of Annihilation. To open the tomb, the party has to complete a number of puzzles and challenges to collect essentially keys to open the tomb. This is when warning bells probably should have started ringing a little louder for me, because the entire premise of this chapter is to get players ready for what is coming in the tomb, which is essentially puzzle after trap after puzzle after trap after puzzle after trap after puzzle after trap. I really didn't enjoy running this part of the adventure. I didn't really like prepping all of the tombs and the like little mini dungeons. It could just be an experience thing because like I haven't run a lot of puzzles, or at least I hadn't before that point, and I didn't really know how to help the players along if they got stuck. You know, I would offer clues and get them to roll intelligence checks and stuff, but sometimes they would just get completely and utterly stumped to the point where I felt like I just had to tell them the answer because we were all getting super duper frustrated. But we persisted, and this was a very up and down time of the campaign because this was when the pandemic was kicking off, and like this particular group, online play doesn't really work for us, so we had to sort of go on very long hiatuses of months and months and months. I think 8 months was like our longest hiatus, which I know we're very lucky. That's actually not that long compared to a lot of other places in the world, but yeah, nevertheless. And we entered the tomb, and this is when I started to just feel really stuck. You know, we're 2 years into the campaign pretty much at this point, and once you're in the tomb, like that's it. That is the focus of it. It's really hard to include any kind of hook into the characters' backstories because they're so far removed from where they usually are. And if I had been a more experienced Dungeon Master, I would have had the players make characters that were based in Chult, or at least had some connection to Chult, but because I was brand new, we just used the same characters that they had put together for a one-shot that didn't have any connection to this land at all, and it just became really difficult to run the kind of game that I now realize is the game that I enjoy the most. I prefer stories that are character-driven, where the world is responding to the characters rather than the characters responding to the world. All of my players had made these wonderful, creative, and rich backstories that I just felt like I couldn't do anything with because we'd been stuck in this dungeon for like a year. I actually started getting very down about the game, and I wasn't really looking forward to sessions. Like, I absolutely adore my friends. They are my chosen family, and I loved spending time with them, and I always felt good after the session because I had gotten to have fun with my friends. But in the lead up to the session, I felt stressed, I felt anxious, I didn't enjoy the prep work because I felt like I had to memorize a bunch of trap DCs. I felt like I had to juggle a lot of things to take out the like no save death things that are in there, because there's quite a few occasions in the book where the character just dies. Like there's no save, there's no warning, there's nothing. I didn't really want that in there, so I sort of had to work those out. And it generally just became a little bit of a slog. But we were so close to the end, I thought just gotta keep going. In the end though, I just decided that enough was enough. And I sent a very long and heartfelt message to my players where I sort of laid all of this out about how I was feeling stuck and uninspired, and how I didn't want to run it anymore, and how it wasn't them. I loved their characters and I wanted to keep playing with them, you know. And I suggested, could we please skip the next few levels of the dungeon, which was I think was two or three levels, go straight to the boss battle with Acererak, and then kick off with a brand new campaign where we kind of reboot, restart, you know, using the same characters, but a fresh new beginning, essentially. And of course, because my friends are awesome and amazing, they all wrote back almost immediately saying like, yeah, of course, if you're not having fun, like, let's do something else. We just want to play D&D with our friends. Like, we don't mind. It's cool. And the relief that I felt, I actually cried, because I was just feeling so concerned that I was letting them down, that we'd spent so many years invested in this adventure and that we were not going to like properly finish it. I was worried I was going to disappoint them. And I think there is a lot of onus on dungeon masters, whether that is externally or just internally. Like for me, this was specifically internally. There's a lot of pressure to deliver a fun game, right? Like the dungeon master sort of bears the sole responsibility for providing a fun game for the players, when in actuality that's not true. Like everybody at the table is responsible for everybody having a good time, and if someone's not having fun, including the dungeon master, like something needs to change, and everybody is responsible for that. And if I had communicated that earlier to my players, if I had talked about it more openly and clearly, we probably could have avoided months of me being stressed and anxious about the game and just gone on to do something much more enjoyable sooner. So I'm happy to say that yes, we did cut to the boss battle. It was fun, it was dramatic. We did it over 2 sessions. One character died, but they did manage to bring her back after they had removed the death curse. It went really well, and it was really hard, and there was some sacrifices, and they lost a lot of things and they gained some things. Anyway, it was great. It was a great battle. And now I'm so excited because we're starting something homebrew. We're essentially going to be cutting 6 months ahead after the events of Tomb of Annihilation and just exploring whatever comes up. I'm absolutely thrilled to be exploring all of these rich stories that the players have already given me. And I'm very excited to be making my first foray into homebrewing a game, because I've only ever run modules in the past, so it's very exciting, and it's also a little scary. We had a sort of campaign check-in where we talked about what kind of game we want to run and what kind of game we want to play in, and kind of the goals that the characters have and all that stuff. So we're sort of putting those all in a big pot and mixing them around and then seeing what comes out. I would actually love to hear your advice for running a homebrew game. I am going to be using the Forgotten Realms setting, the like Faerun, just so that I have a skeleton to work from. But apart from that, like the actual campaign, adventure, the encounters and all of that stuff is going to be completely homebrewed. So please give me your advice. I was thinking it might be fun to make a video where I compile all of your advice and share it with everybody so that everyone can benefit from the group collective awesomeness. So yeah, you know what to do. Thanks for hanging out with me on this little, I guess, story time. I hope that it is a good lesson to you that it's really important to communicate with your players and talk with them about how you're feeling about the game, and to schedule regular check-ins. That's something I'm going to do much more frequently moving forward, is kind of having a session check-in. Probably at the end of like each arc is a good place to do it, so that you sort of have finished one part of the story, have a moment to check in, see how everyone's feeling. Like, do you want more roleplay? Do you want more combat? Like, is there a particular direction you want the game to go? Just all of that good stuff, that communication. And have you ever given up on a game before? Have you ever gone, this campaign sucks and I'm not doing it anymore? Let me know about that as well. It would be great to hear some of those stories. All right, I'm gonna go. Stay cozy, and I'll see you all later. Bye! Professional, oh yeah. Getting at my notes and doing things too.